guys, welcome to another edition of Inside the Exit. I'm your host, Drew Brantley, joined today by Bob Frisch. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Drew.
So today we're going to talk about potential buyers. Who might be interested in buying your company or investing in your company? You know, the last decade in America's history has been the largest period of wealth creation ever, from 2009 really through the end of 2019. So as a result, there's more money in the marketplace, more potential buyers than ever. So let's talk about who some of these buyers might be. You know, the first type of buyer is a strategic buyer. So a competitor, somebody that's in your industry, an existing operating company that's looking to buy your company and fold it into their existing portfolio or their revenue stream or their company itself. Maybe they want to expand the footprint. Maybe you've got a product offering that they don't have or an expertise that they don't have. And so they want to acquire you and bring you into the fold underneath their umbrella. Sometimes they want to change the name. Sometimes they want to leave it as the existing name. Who knows? There's a lot of reasons or ways that can be done. But strategic buyers are one type of buyer that are out there. The next type of buyer are management teams. So an existing management team, maybe you've got a management team in place that's been running the day-to-day of your company for a while, and they want to keep growing it and keep running it. Maybe you've been out playing golf for the past 5 years and you haven't really been to the company much, but you really want to make a liquidity event. You've been taking dividends, but at this point you're like, you know what? I want to sell it. I want to move on, spend time with the grandkids, play with my wife, whatever it is that you want to do. And so the management team, you might feel, is the best buyer for your company. There's different options out there, things like ESOPs, where you're able to actually sell it to the management and they kind of buy the stock of the company from you. And there's different people and organizations that specialize in that'll provide the financing for those types of transactions. And then there's other times where maybe the management team's going to stay on, but they don't have the money. And so maybe you're going to self-finance it in a way. There's different ways you can self-finance that. Or maybe you want to bring in an investor to help do a management buyout. And a lot of transactions are done that way, where the management team's going to stay in place. They're going to be well taken care of. But an investor's going to come in, a different buyer. And maybe one of those buyers is one of these next few types that I'm going to mention. So the next couple types of buyers could be an individual, maybe a high net worth individual that's got money, or a family office. Oftentimes high net worth individuals form family offices, and these are entities that they acquire companies. Maybe it's a holding company where they buy companies and they grow them and add them to their portfolio. But family offices are one type of buyer, or individuals, maybe is the second one there, kind of a sub A, if you will. And then the next type are institutional investors. Now, institutional investors are kind of loosely defined as anybody that has a committed pool of capital or a fund that they have put together and they're deploying to acquire or invest in companies. So this could be anybody from private equity firms to venture capital firms. So venture capital firms typically invest in early stage companies, so startups or kind of early stage growth equity, companies that are in the early part of their life cycle. Private equity are tending to buy more stable, more, I'd say maybe older companies that are a little bit larger in size, or they've been around a little bit longer. And then there's other folks like hedge funds or asset managers, or these groups called SBICs or BDCs or debt funds that'll, buy companies and put debt and equity into it. And so there's a lot of different institutional investors out there. One of the things that, Bob and I talked, we hear this a lot from potential buyers and from sellers, is they say, oh, well, I want this type of buyer, or I want this type of investor. And honestly, a lot of times we hear people go, oh, well, I really want a family office to buy me. And they say, I don't want private equity. And I think there's a lot of stereotypes and a lot of misnomers about the difference between family offices or private equity. And, at the end of the day, when Bob and I ask questions and we learn about, well, why do you want maybe a family office or a private equity shop or whoever? It's funny when people say family office, and I honestly think people are just drawn to the word family, Bob. I think they think a family is going to be a better host of their company or a better steward of their company. But, I know a lot of families that are very dysfunctional, to be honest.
Yeah, that is such a misnomer. Just because it has the name family in it, many of them are not exactly family.
Yeah, and look, we're not knocking family offices. We know dozens and hundreds of family offices that are great buyers of companies, and they're great investors, and they're incredible stewards. So again, not throwing family offices under the bus here. We're just really trying to highlight that don't think that just because it's a family office, they're a specific type of buyer. And the same goes for private equity. I think generally a lot of people think private equity are are bad kind of stewards of companies. I think, a lot of people, the term vulture capital gets thrown around a lot. I mean, many of us remember Pretty Woman with Richard Gere.
Oh, yeah.
And his whole MO in that was he was buying companies and then he was slicing and dicing them and selling them off for parts, and he was made out to be this bad guy, this kind of vulture in that video. And I think a lot of us, that's who we think private equity is. But, I mean, it's really not true, is it, Bob?
It's so far from the truth, it's unfathomable. Sure, in a very, very large company, they may buy something. A big private equity firm may buy something and sell off a piece or two just to pay some debt down or something. But in almost all the transactions, certainly in the middle market that we're sort of addressing in these videos, private equity or family offices or other buyers, they're buying them to grow them. They're literally buying them to grow them. But most importantly, and this is something sellers kind of miss the boat on, because they go with the sort of the private equity, what they heard about it, or the family offices and whatever it may be, or whoever the buyer may be. Many buyers, easily the majority of the buyers are coming with expertise in that industry. They're coming because they've done other investments in that industry. They're coming because they have operating partners as part of their team, if you have it, putting money into the company. They're real experts in the field, specifically on the products of the company, on the companies themselves, and they're bringing capital and expertise. They're not just bringing capital. So yeah, you might be selling your company, and yeah, you're going to take a chunk of change off the table. Yeah, I got it. You're taking some of the chips off the table. But wouldn't it be really nice if the next group coming in not only gave you that sort of capital, but also had the expertise in your industry and could take you from level B to level M or something like that? Not just level B up to level C or up to level D, but really take it much higher, because they have this expertise. They're giving you the capital. They still want you to be in the company. Maybe they don't. Maybe you don't want to be there. Maybe it's your son or daughter. But the point is, they know what they're doing, and they're putting more than just capital. Many of these buyers putting much more than just capital into the companies that they're buying. And they're not slicing and dicing them at all. If anything, they're putting a lot of capital for growth as well as capital in your pocket if you're selling.
And you bring up a really good point. You talked about rollover equity. And so rollover equity, in case you're wondering what we're saying, is if you're going to, let's say you sell the company, you're going to sell 70% of it and roll 30% back in. And maybe you're going to be involved, maybe you aren't. Doesn't matter. But to Bob's point, a lot of these buyers, they don't want to buy a company just to keep it as it is. Most people want to buy a company and then grow it so that they build more equity and they can maybe sell it, or maybe they want to hold it. Who knows? But that second bite of the apple, that rollover equity, can oftentimes be worth more on the second bite than it was on the first bite.
Oh, yeah.
We were just talking to a seller recently. It was actually somebody that was now looking to buy another company, but he had grown a company and sold it, and he sold it for a nice, amount of money, and was able to have a different type of lifestyle as a result of it. But then he was also telling us that he rolled some of the equity back into the new company that was formed. And he told us the equity in the new company is now worth more than what he sold the company for before. So when the company transacts again, when the company's sold in, call it the next 3 years or so, the likelihood is, if all things go according to plan, he's going to make more on that second bite than he did on the first bite. So again, to Bob's point, buyers, whether they're family offices, institutional investors like private equity or hedge funds, or whether it's strategics or individuals, a lot of them are not just coming with capital, but they're also coming with expertise. And they're coming with value that they can bring to really help you or the existing management team or the future management team take the company to the next level.
Without a shadow of doubt. And that happens all the time. So keep that in mind as you're deciding on your exit and going out there. It's not It doesn't have to be a one and done by any stretch of the imagination, and it doesn't have to be something where you're just getting capital and whoever takes over isn't involving you, or you don't have equity in the ongoing company and really, as Drew pointed out, going to get a second bite of the apple, and they're bringing tremendous expertise into the equation. Keep in mind, you have a choice of who you sell your company to, and many of these capital providers, these investors that come in, are going to be people that you are vetting, that you are choosing who you're selling your company to, and this is a big consideration.
Selling your company is an emotional process. And if we go off what we think we know about potential buyers, oftentimes it can lead us in the wrong direction. So this video is intended, as all the videos with Inside the Exit, is to provide you with information, to provide you with examples to help you understand and navigate this process. So as you're thinking about who might be a potential buyer for your company, I think it's worth asking your questions. What do I think about those people or potential buyers, whoever they might be? What are the stereotypes that I've heard, and are those true? Because from our perspective, it's more important to have the right information than the wrong information as you go through this process. So best of luck to you as you're beginning to think through this. Continue to watch some of our other videos. Check out the links below. And again, as we've said in our other videos, if you have questions about the exit, this process, reach out to us. We're here to be a resource for you. Hopefully, if we can't answer it, we can connect you with the right people that can. So thanks for watching this episode of Inside the Exit. Subscribe below, check out the other links, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode.